Smith, Rob Thompson, Fred Smith, Ray Hick, also Steven Schoenberger.
Alright, so I think you'll notice that the track we're at seems to be a little bit bigger than normal. Zach and I are racing in West Virginia. We are at the Mountaineer in Beckley, West Virginia. Yeah, bad line here. We walked a little bit of the track. We walked this section right here, and I thought that left line was going to be a little bit better than going right down the middle of that muddy section, and it wasn't. And so I let a guy by there. Got a really good start. Got the whole shot, as you've seen. The track is pretty tough. Actually, sections are real tough. This is as good as you're going to see it. It just continues to break down and get worse and worse throughout the day. Obviously, I'm running the AM race, the 10 o'clock race, the 2-hour race, and Zach runs the 1 o'clock race. And so we chewed it up pretty good before those guys even got on it. And you can see it's already breaking down quite a bit. The rock was pretty tough. Probably, well, this is probably the toughest track I've ever ridden. There was one year that Death Valley was pretty tough on the OXCR schedule. That was really wet and hot and hard to get traction. I think 2018 maybe. But this is a pretty tough track. So we stayed all night, and that was okay. A lot of noise in the pits, so I think I'll make some different decisions next time when it comes to picking where to park, especially if you're tent camping. We're actually racing on a Sunday, which I generally don't do, but we wanted to run just a couple of GNCCs to get Zach some experience running a couple of GNCCs, and to see what it was like. And overall a good time. So this guy passed me now. He's not in my class. There's one guy ahead of me that is in my class. I let him by, and kind of just feeling for traction right now and feeling the track out a little bit. And he was running just a little bit quicker than what I wanted to run right at first. But eventually I get back by him and take the win in my class. Placed 77th out of 371 bikes. So I felt like that was pretty good. The section right through here looks pretty easy, but it was actually kind of slick. And we're getting ready to head into a couple of rock sections, or rock gardens, what they were calling them. So this is at the beginning of the race, and it's this bad, so you can just imagine what it breaks down to. So I did 4 laps, and I don't think anybody in the AM race did more than 4 laps. They were quite long laps. I think it was almost an 11-mile course, and if you look at the kind of stuff we're riding on, yeah, you can see why number one, their laps are long, and very, very technical stuff, so pretty long lap times. This is going to be a pretty long video for the first lap. Quite a few passes during this race. Pretty much the entire length of the race I'm passing people. we're skidding past a few times too. Plenty of off-camber stuff here. Plenty of off-camber stuff with the rock on it like this. This track, in my opinion, was about really one thing, and that was clutch control. A good suspension setup and clutch control, because a lot of these sections I'm just kind of like bogging in second gear, or sometimes even bogging in third gear, and just very, very low RPMs and a lot of clutch to get through this stuff, and really just letting the bike move under you is extremely important. There was no way to manhandle a bike through this stuff. You just kind of had to float through it the best you could. The worst part about this track really was that you would be riding along, and then just out of nowhere you would hit a rock on your front tire, and it would deflect your tire and kind of scare you. Kind of expect it to go down at kind of just about any minute, until you kind of started getting some of the lines figured out. Yeah, again, this is the first lap, and it's this muddy and tore up on the first lap, so there again, we're expecting it to just get worse and worse here. Still trying to make some passes. This is a really high-speed section here, really long straight, but it was also really slick. You had to just get way back over the back tire and just kind of let your front end kind of scoot around, kind of look for ruts. There again, I'm being just a little bit tentative on the first lap here. Again, just trying to feel my way through the rocks and learn the course a little bit, and try to get a little bit faster as the day goes on. Pretty nasty off-camber section here, a lot of rock. The nice thing about some of these muddy sections is that even though it looks pretty nasty, most of it had a rock base. So even though you've seen water, you could pretty much just go right through a lot of this stuff. And it didn't really get that deep. Now I heard in the PM race that some of these ruts got a lot worse, but for our race, this stuff wasn't horrible. I wouldn't say the traction was bad, but if you tried to just ride in the power band, all you would really do was spin the back tire a lot. I kind of felt like that you were better off running a taller gear and slipping the clutch a little bit more than normal to get traction versus, winding your bike out. That just didn't seem to work. My opinion anyway. Different people attack this stuff different ways. I generally run lower in the RPM range. So this is my first GNCC race ever. I think I said that, but so it was all a completely new experience to me. Starting on time was nice, and everything. They definitely got the bugs worked out. Everything seemed to go very smoothly. No problems with scoring. I really enjoyed the track, although it was very tough. That's fine. That separates riders as far as I'm concerned. This is a really cool section here. Turned to really black dirt there for just a little bit. It was the only section like that. again, just picking your way through all the rocks. Now this section here was super fun. This is like a bike only section. It was almost more like an enduro, you know, like a sprint enduro in this little section is what it felt like. All single track, kind of high speed. Again, you're just kind of hoping you don't find a nasty rock. Really fun down through here. So I've kind of pulled away from everybody in my class. Haven't caught back up to the guy that passed me yet. At this point I figured he was just a lot faster than me, and I wasn't really worried too much about trying to catch up to him, but I catch up to him here in just a little bit. But again, super cool section here, super fun section. Getting back into some of this rock and off-camber stuff now. Again, more kind of high-speed single track here. Super fun in this area. Great traction, great dirt, everything's awesome here. We'll get to some nasty stuff here in just a minute. Starts to slow down here just a little bit. Start to get into some rock. Have to back it down. But I really like riding this kind of stuff right here. This is a lot of fun. Come out and cross a power line here. Down the hill here, heading towards some little nastier stuff coming up. Pretty long bike only section there. It was a lot of fun. This looks like we just came back on to the main track where the four-wheelers have been. You can see the kind of the powder berms are already there, and tracks wider now. That was a pretty big hole right there. Kind of caught me off guard. Picked the wrong line. Four-wheelers left a lot of uncovered roots on the track. Most of them weren't too bad, but there were a few areas where they were pretty bad. Passed more than a few bikes with people laying down on a turn where they had probably not went out into the berm and tried to hold an inside line and couldn't keep their front end. So back into a rocky section here. Definitely got to be careful following. This section got a lot nastier later on. It's not actually too bad right now. later in the race, once you started passing up to some of the slower classes, you had to be really careful about following anybody. You tried to not follow anybody. This section here was pretty nasty, but it just got worse every single lap. It got worse and worse because these great big nasty rocks just kept getting unburied and then kicked up on the top. Trying to keep a flow through here somewhat, catching up to a couple more riders, it looks like. Looking for a spot to squeeze by here. Found one there. And here you can see we got definitely catching up to some of the earlier rows. This uphill got really nasty. I kind of like this kind of stuff, but late in the race, that uphill got pretty bad. There was an alternate line for that uphill, but I took that hard line the entire race. I think on my 4th lap, I think I got stuck a little bit on that, but other than that, I generally didn't have any problem getting up it. You can tell the roots and stuff that's kicked up from the four-wheelers are probably guys who run GNCC all the time are used to this. The nice thing about OXCR for a bike is that the four-wheelers run after us. And obviously with GNCC, the four-wheelers run on Saturday and then the bikes run on Sunday. So lots of powder berms and stuff like that already kicked up. Another section here that got pretty nasty late in the race. Trying to concentrate a lot on just entering the rut at the right spot and kind of powering through the ruts here. Zach always yells at me that I don't take the ruts the right way. He's probably right. So here you can see we're definitely making some passes. I'm not sure, but there was a guy who broke his leg, and I'm not sure that that's him or not. Here again, making some more passes the easy way. I think a lot of guys were struggling in the rocks and struggling with the roots and the uphills. There was a lot of guys later in the race, pulled off the side of the track, taking a break. Definitely catching up to some people now. Looks like there's 4 or 5 bikes up there. I think this is possibly where I pass the guy that's in first. Check here once we get up here and see if that's him right in front of me there. So that's the guy in first that's right ahead of me. Looks like a yellow sticker. And so I'm kind of looking for an opportunity here to sneak by. I think we start up another hill here, up to a checkpoint. We both kind of take kind of a left line. I think somebody started to go down here a little bit. Was able to sneak by here. We'll see here in just a minute. So late in the race, I did let a guy by, and then once he went by, I seen that it was a guy in my class. So I basically just followed him for a while. We were running just about the same pace. Of course, he knew that I was leading because when he went by me, he picked up his pace and tried to sprint away. And I basically just kind of just followed him for a mile maybe or so. I didn't have any problem keeping up with him, and then repassed him and pulled away. And I won first by about a 5-minute gap over him. And then him and I think were like over 10 minutes ahead of third, so we had pulled out pretty decent lead. Another neat little single track section here. It was not very long, but it was a lot of fun. My whole goal right now is just to kind of keep up with this guy and look for an opportunity to sneak back by him. Here's where it gets real rocky on the right there, and we kind of do a little exploration here, and I look over and see that the checkpoint's over to the right, and then he kind of messes up and gets into a tree there. I get back over here toward where we need to be going, and so now it's my turn to sprint away. So I kind of push here for a couple of miles and make sure that I pull out. I knew the pace he was running, and I knew I could run faster than that pace, so I just pick it up a little bit and make sure that I keep my gap. Within just a minute or so, I couldn't hear any bikes behind me. These turns were, you can see they're pretty nasty. A lot of guys were going down on these turns. Felt like my suspension really did really well during this race. At least for the pace that I run, I felt like the suspension was working really, really well. So catching up again to some other riders here. Until we're still only at the 5-mile marker, and covered a lot of ground already. I felt like I would make up ground on people in the really nasty stuff, and then once we hit this more flowy stuff, then they would either pull out on me a little bit, or we would just kind of maintain. So I kind of felt like I was faster than a lot of the people in the technical stuff, but if we had a long section of just kind of flowy stuff like this, then usually a lot of them were more likely to hang it out a little bit faster, run a little bit faster pace than me. So like, you know, these guys here, they were kind of pulling away from me a little bit in that flowy stuff, but I'm pretty much right on them now that we got into some more nasty stuff. ended up battling with this guy here a little bit. I got by him eventually, and then I took a different line than he did on a long rocky uphill, and he got back by me, and then I think I eventually got back by him on a downhill somewhere. Trying to sneak his way past that guy, and what I've learned is that if you can get close enough, a lot of times you can, and you pay attention, you can sneak by at the same time the guy ahead of you does, and normally that kind of works. And so I try to, when I can tell a bike in front of me is making a pass, I try to get right on him so I can kind of sneak by at the same time. Sometimes it works. Kind of, once again, didn't take that rut in the optimal spot, but I'm getting better. Back across the power line. Couple of pretty big rock gardens. One pretty nasty one coming up where I made quite a few passes actually when people wrecked in front of me. The good thing about them is that they were pretty nasty, so you couldn't really go that fast. So generally people would just fall over. They didn't seem like anybody was getting necessarily hurt on them. They were just kind of falling over and having to pick their bike back up. Late in the race, you could definitely tell the guys who are not used to riding with clutch control and riding standing up, because in the rocky stuff, you really had to be standing up and using a lot of clutch control and just kind of letting the bike float around under you. Zach and I both put new tires on, so here's where I sneak by this guy. I get a little bit quicker outside line there. But we both put new tires on, and I mean, it was good that we did, but man, I'll tell you what, they took a beating in this race. A lot of the rock is kind of like sandstone, and so they basically look like we rode on sandpaper for 2 or 3 hours. This is another pretty nasty uphill here. It's got just worse and worse the more you can see guys off to the left there. And just more and more people got stuck on these uphills. This wasn't a great line over here, and there's that guy who just got back by me. He's not in my class, but then again, just kind of riding for an overall. None of these guys are in my class. Almost got him there, but that little tree was right where I needed to be. It kind of looks like, some of these areas, if you just gassed it hard, you could get by, but traction wasn't really like that. You know, it had to be very controlled. You know, you had to have a lot of control on your back end. If you just hammered it, you would just spin, and your back end would kick around on the rocks, and you just wouldn't really accelerate like you thought you could. Everything we're riding on has got rock all over it. It's kind of hard to see in the video, but there's just everything is rocky. So you'd like to accelerate, but you really can't. You have to find a good spot where you can just get like a nice flow and kind of flow by them versus just hammering it. Seems like it took forever to get the first lap done. But it was a lot of fun, a lot of good riding, some good battles in the first lap, just trying to sneak by people. I don't think I can't remember now, but I didn't get past much on the first lap. I was mostly doing passing, which is obviously good. The pro women were on the first row of the AM race, and then Sportsman A, I think. So eventually some A riders start sneaking by on on my last lap. I don't know, that might be right, because I thought somebody told me, though, that nobody ran more than 4 laps, so I don't know. Can't remember right now, but going back into another kind of a rocky section here. There was a couple of lines later in the race through here. I eventually started taking the left line. Made a few passes there. We finally break out of the woods. I think we're at like mile 9 or so. I remember seeing an 8 back there, so probably close to 9, and we finally break out into a little area where you can pit. We're going to drop back down into the woods. Yeah, this track was like 98% woods, which is fine with me. I enjoy the grass track from time to time, but this is a little bit more my style. So we're a little bit closer to the pits now, so we'll start to see some more people standing around. And then this is the bigger rock section up here. A lot of people standing around watching people go through these rocks. So again, this was like the harder section. I didn't have any issue with it that particular lap. It did get worse. I think I make the pass there. So I picked the harder line, but it's a little bit shorter. I'm able to sneak by, and then it kind of opens back up into some more open stuff here. All the pits are kind of up over the left hill there. There was Zach. This is dropping back down into where we first entered the woods. We'll make our way up through that nasty section again and get back to the tent there. Start where we started through timing and scoring. So I went straight through all this time, and it definitely was a lot faster. I should have done that on the first lap.
Come on, stay in gear.
It's got pretty chewed up. Still kind of always gravitated up toward that left line. Not sure where this guy on the left came from. Not in my class, but he's a little bit faster than me. I didn't have any reason to try to keep up with him. Little mistake there. Luckily, that was about the worst mistake I made. Had a couple just little easy tip overs, kind of like that. Nothing. Never actually fell off the bike, and never actually had any major issues at all during this race, which is pretty good considering the terrain that we're racing on. I was pretty happy with the way I rode. Now we're getting over to where the big pits are. You can see some of the pro pits here and some of the big rigs. I think that's the like a schoolboy class there. I think they were on 125s or maybe 150s. There's mile marker 10. I think the course was 10.5 miles, so we're just going to come up through some S's here and finish off the first lap. For my first GNCC ever, it was a great time. And if you guys enjoy the video, we're going to do 2 more. We're going to do the one up in Ohio, and we're going to do Ironman. So, see you later.